The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, has finally been released. At long last, starring Robert Pattinson, Zoe Kravitz, Colin Farrell, Paul Dano, among others. When the Riddler, a sadistic serial killer, begins murdering key political figures in Gotham, Batman is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. Okay, so like everybody else, I have been extremely excited for this movie ever since I saw that teaser trailer, that fantastic teaser trailer back at DC Fandom last year, and everything we saw from this film afterwards only increased my excitement. Every trailer, every TV spot, every poster, every frame looked fantastic and perfect, and like the iteration of Batman that I've always wanted to see on the big screen. And it delivered. The Batman is so good. So good. This is, and I do not say this lightly, the most stunning and well-crafted comic book film I've ever seen. Full stop, in my life. The most well-crafted comic book film I've ever seen in my life. It's incredible. It is a truly epic cinematic achievement that constantly wowed me with its technical marvel. Throughout the whole thing, I was just amazed with every aspect of this movie and how well put together it was. If you are like me and appreciate the art of filmmaking and the different aspects that go together to make a satisfying and fulfilling movie, I think you're gonna love this movie. The cinematography by Greig Fraser is beautiful. Like, really, really beautiful. It's so well lit, so well captured. Every scene, every shot is beautiful. And I was just kind of stunned by what I was seeing, and I was hooked to the screen just from the visuals. The visuals alone of this movie make it worth the watch. Greig Fraser, having done Dune and now The Batman, is one of my new favorite cinematographers working today. And I'm gonna be super excited for anything he does in the future, but he's consistently bringing amazing and beautiful cinematography to these big blockbuster films. Michael Giacchino's score in this movie is also amazing. I've been a big fan of Michael Giacchino for a long time, and I think he's been pretty underrated as a composer. He's done some incredible scores, but this might be his best to date. The themes in this movie are super memorable and catchy. They suit this movie so well. They complement the visuals in this movie so well. The Batman theme, the Riddler theme, the Catwoman theme, they're all so different and unique, but they all work perfectly within the context of this movie. And then you got Matt Reeves. Matt Reeves, man. Matt Reeves blew me away with what he was able to accomplish in this movie. It is so clear when you're watching this movie that Matt Reeves had a vision and a clear intention for what he wanted to accomplish in this movie. He came into this movie with a plan. He knew what world he wanted to craft, what iteration of Batman he wanted to bring to the screen, what unique elements he wanted to bring, and it is so evident. It's one of those movies where when you're watching it, you feel like there's an author to this story. You feel like there's a true visionary behind the camera. Every decision made, every plot point, every scene feels carefully thought through, carefully placed. I love the MCU. I really do. And I love a lot of the big blockbusters that we're getting today. But it's becoming more and more rare that we see blockbusters like this. This movie, Dune, The Suicide Squad, these are just some recent examples of movies that you can tell that they gave the filmmakers freedom to do what they wanted to do. And because of that, you get a movie like this, a movie that feels intentional, a movie that feels like there's a true artist. Also one that doesn't feel like it was factory produced and shot on a soundstage. Also, The Batman separates itself from many of the other blockbusters today in that you can see every dollar spent on the screen. This movie costed like $100 million, which is less than actually a lot of the big movies that are being produced today. But you can see every single dollar that was spent on screen. It does not rely on CGI or green screen. It feels real and it feels practical. Because it was. Like, I saw in an interview that even the scene where Batman flew out of the fire in the Batmobile was practically done. And throughout this whole movie, you can tell that they did as much as they could practically. They shot as much as they could on real sets. And it just adds like a real tangibilization to this movie that really makes it stand out from a lot of the other blockbusters today. And it really shows the potential of what you can do when given a huge budget like this. The type of movie you can really create and the type of atmosphere you can craft when you're given that type of resource. Okay, so aside from all the technical elements, which I obviously really loved, I also really loved the approach that Matt Reeves took to this story and to this world. Gotham is like a character in and of itself. It's dark, it's gritty, it's got that noir aesthetic, and it really feels like the most true and authentic interpretation of Batman that we've ever seen, honestly, while still being the most grounded in reality interpretation of Batman we've ever seen. I also really like the detective approach to this story. Like many people have been saying, it's very Seven, Zodiac, David Fincher-esque. And I think that's a really great addition and angle to the Batman character and to these movies that we haven't really seen done in any of the Batman interpretations thus far. It's filled with so many twists and turns, and I was seriously like on the edge of my seat, invested into this mystery, trying to solve it alongside Batman. Robert Pattinson is phenomenal in this movie. He accomplishes so much and says so much through his subtlety and his restraint. He is deliberate with every movement. Every facial expression feels thoughtfully considered. He says so much with just his eyes and even with just the way he moves. He's incredible. He really is. Everybody else is quite good in this movie as well. Zoe Kravitz in particular is a really good companion, a really nice companion to Robert Pattinson in this movie, and I think they work very well together in this movie. If I were to have one little criticism with this movie, it might just be a bit of the runtime and maybe a bit of how the third act was handled here. While I do quite like the direction the third act took, and it's filled with some incredible moments, it does feel like the film loses a bit of steam and momentum, as there are maybe a few too many exposition dumps and standstill scenes that lacked much suspense. It also just doesn't really climax in as much of a crescendo as I might have hoped it would have. Though, again, they took a bit of a different approach and a bit of a different angle, which I still really liked. I just think that it didn't quite hit that high climax as much as it could have. It just kind of teetered off a little bit. But like I said, I still do like the approach they took. It's a bit of a different direction than I was expecting, but that's not saying that it was necessarily bad. Also, while I didn't have many issues with the long runtime, with the 3-hour runtime, in fact, I thought that it was great in that it was patient and it really was able to take its time with its storytelling. There were a few places where I thought it could have been tightened up a little bit, including moments in the third act, just tightened up a little bit here and there to make for a little bit of a shorter runtime that might have flowed a little bit better. But overall, as you can tell, I really love this movie. This is the type of big studio blockbuster that I love to see. It's one of those films that just reminds me why I love film, and it just kind of reinvigorates that I don't know, that passion that I have for movies. It's also a movie that has already cemented itself as one of my favorite comic book movies of all time. And there's a lot of them out there. They are pumping those movies out, and this is one of the best. I'm gonna give The Batman a strong 4.5 out of 5. All right, so let me know what you guys thought down in the comment section below. Did you love it as much as I did? Let me know all of your thoughts down there. Make sure you follow me over on Letterboxd and Twitter to see my takes on all of these movies before I ever talk about them on here. And if you're still watching at this point, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and hit that bell notification icon. Like this video. It really helps the channel out. All right, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.